Once again, thank you so much, Mana, for joining us and sharing for us. I think everyone here will actually already know of you and know of your paper, but I guess I should do the introduction. So I have your bio. Mana Ryuba is a second-year PhD candidate at the University of Melbourne. Her first paper was recently published in Precambrian Research titled Tectonically-induced Neptunian dykes and breccias in the Paleoproterozoic Teena Dolomite, Significance to stratiform zinc deposits in the McArthur Basin, Australia. Her PhD research focuses on the sedimentology and geochemistry of Precambrian carbonates to understand surface processes and ocean chemistry of Precambrian Earth. She's currently working on the Marinoan cat carbonates in the Flinders Ranges, Australia. Thank you again.
Thank you. No, thank you so much for having me, for inviting me to talk about this work on these unusual Neptunian dykes and breccias. I think I'll just get started.
I'll move fast so that we're not interrupting.
That's all right. Okay. Okay, so I'll switch to laser pointer. I'm going to start off this talk by talking about stratiform lead zinc deposits, and I'm sure that those of you from the Northern Territory will be very familiar with this deposit type, because of course the northern part of Australia is an extremely important region for this type of deposit. So of course these are made of these finely laminated sulfides, commonly hosted in organic rich shales. So I've used the term stratiform quite deliberately because there are a few models to explain how these deposits form. So probably the most well-known is the sedimentary exhalative, or the ZX type deposit model, and the other is the clastic dominant type deposit model. And so you can categorize these two as to be a kind of sedimentary model and an epigenetic model. So the ZX type deposit model is where you have a vent that allows for these mineralizing fluids to reach the surface. So mineralization takes place right at that surface water interface. In contrast, the clastic dominant type model suggests a carbonate replacement is taking place within the subsurface. So this would then occur at depth. This is more similar to MVT style deposit models. So I'm going to take you to the Batten Fault Zone region for this study. And so this is, of course, the area where we find the famous McArthur River, or the HYC deposit, and also the Teena deposit as well. And of course, the McArthur Basin makes up, is one part of this larger zinc province, also known as the Carpentaria Zinc Belt. So the unit that I'm going to talk about is the Teena Dolomite. So it's that unit that underlies the Barney Creek Formation, and the Barney Creek Formation is the one that everyone is interested in, because of course that's the one that hosts the HYC deposit. Chris Reed, when he was at Tech Australia, brought this project to us because essentially there were these unusual breccias that were appearing in multiple drill cores, and so Chris wanted to find out what these breccias were and whether they could tell us anything about the mineralization process in this area. So breccias have been previously documented in the Teena Dolomite. So Peter Winefield wrote about it quite a bit in his PhD thesis, so obviously that would be a sedimentary origin for these breccias. However, more recently, there's been these breccias have been interpreted to be of a hydrothermal origin. So they've been called black matrix breccias. And black matrix breccias are a hydrothermal breccia that is commonly associated with Irish type deposits, so which is more similar to MVT type deposits. So that would be an epigenetic origin for these breccias. So yeah, I just think it's interesting that the story of the breccias seemed to be mirroring that the different ideas for how stratiform zinc deposits form. So we started off wanting to find out where these breccias occur within the Teena Dolomite. And so these are some stratigraphic sections that I put together of the different drill cores. And so this is the Teena Dolomite, and the above is the Barney Creek Formation. And what was interesting was that these breccias seem to be appearing at the same stratigraphic position across different drill cores. So this is suggesting then that this event is well, a stratigraphically constrained event. It's happening right at the topmost section of the Teena Dolomite. And these are what the breccias look like. So they have a range of different textures, and we've categorized them according to whether they're more in situ type textures or transported textures. So we have crackle type breccias, mosaic breccias, and also this matrix supported rubble breccias. But what was interesting to us was actually what was between the class. So the infill of these fractures is what really tells us how these breccias formed. So these fractures tend to be infilled with fibrous cements, and there are several different types that we've described. So this is radiaxial fibrous cement, and this is a fascicular fibrous cement, and herringbone cements. So these cements are indicative of a marine environment. And that's because these fibrous cements form as a result of rapid precipitation of calcite from seawater. And we know that these are sedimentary features because these fibrous cements tend to be overlain with sediment. And so these are the fractures, and you can see that we have those fibrous cements, and then you see those sediments overlying them as well. And you also have these fractures that are just infilled with sediment. And so essentially, when you have a fracture that is infilled with sediment and or marine cements, what you have are Neptunian dykes. And this is important because this tells us that these breccias are forming really early on, so right at the surface. So these are not epigenetic breccias. So yeah, you can see that there's some really interesting textures here again, and you can get a sort of timing relationship for the different Neptunian dike phases. So you can see that there's this white cemented Neptunian dike being cross-cut by these by this sediment one, and yeah, you can get really complicated features, and that's really just showing that we have a multi-stage Neptunian dike formation happening. So essentially you have the first phase of Neptunian dike forming, where you have the fracture opening, and you have fibrous cements precipitating on the walls, and also sediment entering those fractures too. But so when you have another refracturing event, you have this second generation of cements and sediment infilling these fractures. And then when you refracture that Neptunian dike again, you can see that you could come up with these really complicated textures. So it turns out that these breccias are distributed really widely in the Batten Fault Zone area. And so each of these points here represent a locality where we see breccias and or Neptunian dikes occurring in the Teena Dolomite. So it seems to be quite a widespread event. So where do you find Neptunian dikes? Neptunian dikes are commonly associated with reef platform margins. So they So they form kind of at the edge of a reef where you might have fractures forming, maybe from some kind of gravity-driven instability. And these fractures are then pumped with the seawater, and from that seawater we have those marine cements precipitating. And related to these kind of marginal slopes, you usually have these debris flows as well. So this seems like a sensible origin for these Neptunian dykes and breccias. Another way that we can get Neptunian dykes is actually through tectonics. So there's been quite a lot of work done in the Jurassic Cretaceous Tethys Rift, and also much younger rifts off the coast of Italy as well, where authors describe Neptunian dykes along being related to extension. And so this is what they look like. So you have these fractures that are being infilled with sediment from the overlying unit. So syn sedimentary fractures. So we do favor this idea of the tectonic origin for the Teena Dolomite, and that's because the Teena Dolomite doesn't really show any evidence of reef frameworks as far as we can see. And also, if you look beyond the Teena Dolomite, we know that there is a regional subsidence occurring, because you have that transition from a relatively shallow marine environment in the Teena Dolomite to a much deeper marine environment in the Barney Creek Formation. And I guess tectonically induced subbasins have been a prevalent part in the models for the Teena and the HYC. So this subbasin idea was kind of came up through trying to describe the Barney Creek Formation being at different thicknesses regionally. And finally, we have these debris flows that occur between the ore lenses at HYC. And so this is suggesting that we have these syn sedimentary fault scarps that are during the mineralization. So this is what we suggest. We suggest that the Neptunian dykes and the breccias in the Teena Dolomite represent the onset of an extensional tectonic event at about 1640 million years ago. So we have the onset of extension, which and the seismic activity that's related to this then fractures the Teena Dolomite on these fault blocks. And those fractures are then open to seawater, so that's where you're forming those marine cemented Neptunian dykes. But as that tectonic event progresses, you have a deepening of the basin, and so you have the Barney Creek Formation being deposited. But because we're still having ongoing extension, we're still getting these fractures forming in the fault blocks, and so now those fractures are being infilled with these sediments. So we're forming those sediment-filled Neptunian dykes. But we might have some topography related to this. So in the paleo highs, we might be forming these other generations of marine cemented Neptunian dykes. So this extensional event seems to explain what is happening in the McArthur Basin, but it happens to also coincide with other descriptions of extensional movements in other parts of the Carpentaria zinc belt. So one example is from the Lawn Hill platform. So this is the river event that was described by Scott and others from seismic data. And then we also have some geochron studies and paleomag studies as well in these other parts of the Carpentaria zinc belt. So essentially, this is suggesting that this tectonic event is actually affecting the whole of the Carpentaria zinc belt, not just the McArthur Basin. And in addition to that, we know that the shales, the organic rich shales that host these stratiform zinc deposits are all of about the similar age, so around 1640 million years plus minus 10 million years. So there's This is a list of them. So HYC, Mount Isa, Lady Loretta, Walford Creek. So yeah, this is this is suggesting then that this tectonic event is important because that's the regional subsidence that occurs as in association with it is the reason why we have this transgressive event. And without that, we wouldn't have the deposition of these organic rich shales that go into to host these important deposits. And additionally, we think that these this tectonic event could also form those faults that might act as conduits for mineralizing fluids as well. So I think this also has some implications for how we view the HYC ore deposits. So this is quite a typical cross-section that is used to depict what the HYC deposit looks like. And yeah, so this just bringing your attention to this Cooley dolomite unit. This is a unit that has there's been a few ideas on how what this breccia is, but it's commonly depicted like this, coming off this this western fault. So currently, this Cooley dolomite is considered to be part of the Barney Creek Formation. So that's the unit that overlies the Teena Dolomite. So, and it's seen to be the lateral equivalent of the HYC Peritic Shale member. But Hinman suggested that these Cooley breccias might actually be of tectonic origin. And he also suggested that, that the Cooley breccias were not actually part of the Barney Creek Formation, but may originate from Teena, the Mitchell Yard, and Mara Dolomites. So given what we now know about the Teena breccias, and we know how widespread they are, it seems reasonable to then suggest that the Cooley breccias are just maybe another occurrence of the Teena breccias. And we're quite certain of this because Malcolm, Chris, and Nick recently were able to take a trip to McArthur River and see this Cooley dolomite. And yeah, from what they've told me, it looks exactly the same as the Teena breccias. So that's really exciting. So that's it from me. But just to summarize, so the Neptunian dykes and breccias are of a sedimentary origin, and we think it represents this extensional tectonic event that's happening at about 1640 million years ago, and that this tectonic event is affecting other areas of the Carpentaria zinc belt as well. And it's probably what's causing the transgression that leads to the deposition of those deep marine cements that are so important for the stratiform zinc deposits. And I think that this study demonstrates the value of looking at rocks that are beyond the immediate ore deposit itself. And if we kind of look at the periphery geological context, maybe we can get a wider context for what's happening for these important mineral deposits. So just before I finish, I want to thank my supervisors, Malcolm Wallace and Ashley Hood, and Christopher Reed and Nicola Kaywood, who brought this project to fruition, and Tech for allowing us access to their cores and facilities as well. And yes, that's it for me, and thank you. I'm keen to hear if you have any feedback for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Mana. Are you happy to take questions? Or?
Yes. Yep. Definitely. Yep.
Have we?
Was it online? Any online questions or comments?
Yeah. Do we have any online questions?
Hey, Mana, I've got a question.
Oh, hey.
Hey, I'm Amber Jarrett. I'm at the Minerals Council and used to work at the Northern Territory Geological Survey. I can't see, Meg, who's behind you, if there's any Team Basin geoscience people in the room. But guessing that Tim's probably not in this late
Yeah,
afternoon.
Tim was pretty
So channeling Tim Munson, who's our amazing sedimentologist, I guess he would ask the question, why, or can you just clarify why you're calling this the the Dolomite instead of the Dolostone? If you have any comments on that, especially when the Geological Survey all about conforming to the stratigraphic units database, and there was a big piece of work done redefining all units in the Northern Territory as Dolostones instead of Dolomites.
That's definitely channeling Tim.
That is a good question, and apologies, I guess is what I would start with. Yeah, what is the reasoning for it? Yeah, I haven't. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say that I hadn't thought about it that deeply. Sorry, and I know that it's I just kind of chose it as it just felt comfortable to me, and I never really questioned it that deeply, but I guess I would actually think about it now. So thank you so much for bringing that to my attention.
No worries, no worries at all. I'm happy to email you through a paper and get you in touch with Tim, because I'd love to talk about McArthur Basin stratigraphy in detail with you. The other thing I just wanted to quickly say is I really so I did a lot of work looking at petroleum systems in this area, and I see a lot of synergies with what you were saying and what you were showing with the Birrinduti Basin up to the north west. And there they've got the Campbell Springs Dolostone, and over the top there's the Fraines Formation, and they're they've been dated to be very similar with the Barney Creek Formation and Teena. So I think it's really cool seeing those synergies, and in there, maybe there's sniffs of mineralization too, but I think it's a really great story and explanation for such a big part of the Northern Territory.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it would be exciting to see, how much further we can take this. If this is. It would be really cool if it turns out that people can find similar features in other parts of in other basins as well. So that's really cool, and I could see that Malcolm was nodding his head a lot when you were saying that. So yeah.
How are you finding it was mostly identification done under microscope, or are you sort of seeing can you identify it in the hand specimen most of those features that you're talking about?
These are. Let's see if I can go back and I'll go back. Maybe I'll go. Okay, I don't know how to work this thing. So it's cool because these features are you can see them in hand specimen. They're quite big. So they're pretty spectacular actually. Obviously I'm biased, but I just think they're so beautiful, and you can kind of see that this is the scale. So you have the core, and you can see these big Neptunian dykes just going right through them, and they're like a few centimeters, these Neptunian dykes. So and there's actually quite a lot, and I guess for this type of cement, we did mostly do petrology on it because they're quite small. So that's this is the white cement here. So you wouldn't necessarily. Well, I wasn't. Malcolm was the one who was able to identify them when we were in Mount Isa. So that was really cool. And and so when we made thin sections of these cores, we could see the fibrous cements really clearly. So that was really cool.
So what's the geochemistry of the cements? If they're So if you're getting these breccias interbedded with the mineralization, are you seeing any hints of maybe some sort of fluid, that fluid that's containing the metals also getting into these veins?
Yeah, so that was kind of the one of the first things we looked at, actually, because the idea was if these were hydrothermal, then maybe we'd be able to tell by the compositions of the matrix versus the class. And yeah, I think was I should have actually put the figure of the geochemistry, but. So I guess essentially these sediments seem to match kind of the geochemistry of the Barney Creek formation, from what I remembered. Malcolm, if you
Oh, yeah, there doesn't seem to be much zinc in the marine
Yeah.
cements. It just gives a marine signature. The rare earths and the trace elements. There's not really high metals or anything in it, so it just seems to be at the site we're looking at. It just seems to be marine dominated. Oh yeah, I think that's the rare earth signature.
Yeah.
You were saying quite widespread, like throughout the basin. So are you seeing, you're not sort of expecting that you will have them mainly where you're sort of forming those subbasins? Like it's not sort of just on the edges of those subbasins, it's sort of more widespread through the whole basin sequence?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's interesting because I guess I didn't really do the part where we looked at exactly where in the basin necessarily you would find these breccias, but you do see those breccias are forming elsewhere. So if we have these sub-basins, then maybe we're actually kind of forming them at the edge of the basins. And I know that there's I think some work from so there's other work that's being done by Max Lecter, who's kind of looking at a bigger picture with the Barney Creek formation and has kind of looked at, I don't know if Malcolm wants to elaborate on that, but so I think I am not probably the best person to answer that question, but if we
the breccias do seem to be very, as Mana said, very widespread, and almost everywhere not everywhere where you see the Teena, but almost everywhere at the top of the Teena you get these breccias. So they don't seem to be restricted particularly to the edge of the basin or anything, or even close to major faults. They seem to be all over the place. There probably are like where you get where it seems to be really deep water. There seems to be less breccias, and from where there's actually a conformable section across the Teena Dolomite, or more conformable section across the Teena Dolomite Creek, there are fewer breccias, but they are very widespread.
Yeah. So and then just to add to that, you can see that kind of the most brecciated sections tend to have some parts, some I guess units missing. So you might not necessarily see, for example, the Coxco Dolomite or the W fold everywhere as well. So that's probably telling a different story altogether. So there's definitely something else, I think, a wider story to be looked at as well.
And you're sort of seeing like the mineralizing fluids coming up the faults while like during that 1640 kind of extensional event, while they're sort of extensional faults, or you're sort of looking at them as extensional faults that are potentially later reactivated and Sorry.
No, it's a good question, because I guess we were this kind of idea of it being like a feeder fault wasn't. It's not necessarily. I think there's arguments both for and against that, and I think it's more just saying that if we do have a major extensional event and we're seeing fractures and faults that are probably that are happening because of this, then it'd be reasonable to say that maybe these are why we see these. Maybe this could be a pathway for mineralizing fluids, but yeah, I think maybe that's a work for more clever economic geologists to actually demonstrate that these are where we're having the mineralizing fluids pass through. But it's saying, because there's a lot of literature out there that does suggest that we're kind of, I guess this might be a cause for them, I guess. I don't know if that's a good answer. Maybe I skirted that question a little bit.
That's fair. No. So Amber's just left a comment. Tim's MTTS record on the glide package is another good read on distribution of protozoa across the greater McArthur Basin. The link there, if you like.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I've got another question. Is there a karstic component to these breccias? Or are they always underwater? Is there any subaerial exposure and they're forming during that, or are they always underwater?
It seems like they're always underwater is what I think. I don't think we didn't see any evidence of karst structures. I don't think so. Yeah, it's definitely something that we looked at, even this idea of dissolution, even in the subsurface and not even at the surface. We were looking for karst kind of structures as well, because that could have been a possibility for why we have these breccias, especially if they're related to the mineralization, and then that would then indicate a more the kind of epigenetic model. So we were looking for them, definitely. But yeah, not subaerial, I don't think.
So thank you very much for the presentation, Mana. It's been fantastic. A quick question, very ignorant in this kind of settings, but would you expect any kind of, if the fractures are big enough, to expect some level of internal stratification of these sediments falling into these places? Is like something you could actually see?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, because you this idea of the Neptunian dykes, usually you have those like internal sediments that are like layered, right? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, exactly. If they're big enough, I don't know, imagine if you have to have some level of free space.
Yeah. So that's, I think, something that we could have expected. But what's kind of weird and wonderful about these sediment Neptunian dykes is that we don't tend to see those these laminated sediments. It's because we're not actually seeing sediments being almost passively kind of deposited into them. And what's probably happening is more like so this is some stuff that was written by the people working in that Jurassic Tethys Rift area. So essentially, you have these Neptunian dykes that form, and they're called injection dykes. So essentially, you're having this kind of you're basically having things almost sucked in to these fractures. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
We've got a question from Christopher Reed. Thank you for joining us, Chris. Are there some other analogues of widespread breccias like this to compare with? And if so, do they have fluid expulsion?
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Are there others? Probably you'd think so, because I guess rift margin settings aren't uncommon. But yeah, I think I kind of focused on the Jurassic region because there was just such a huge body of work there. So it was and they really extensively described it. Trying to think, there were younger ones but it's, I guess, in the same area, so that probably doesn't count. So yeah, I mean, we're looking at stuff that's not just in the Jurassic, but also it's happening. These other we're seeing those Neptunian dykes forming in much younger extensional events as well. So I guess does that count? But I don't know if that counts. Are there other regions that you could think of, maybe?
Is my audio working? Because we were late to the.
Oh, that's all right.
We had the time zone wrong. Sorry, everyone. I suppose I was thinking about to that question that was just asked before. Like, if we have widespread breccia formation, which is evident, like, could they be the source for the mineralizing fluids or be conduits for the mineralizing fluids? Because then it would be like, there are other examples of big breccias forming, but do we see like basin dewatering or these fluid outflow zones in other breccia types? Because if otherwise, it's sort of harder to envisage it would be the case here. But I mean, it's not to say not the case, but I mean, because you're sort of mixing a seep model and plus the breccia model together. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that's valid, and I knew I might get into a little bit of trouble talking about the feeder faults and things, but because I guess we're not linking a specific breccia type necessarily to feeder faults. They don't have to be, I guess, sedimentary, and that's why it was first suggested that these might be hydrothermal. But I don't know. Maybe maybe Malcolm, would you like to add to that?
I mean, I guess, there's, as somebody asked earlier, whether there was any evidence for these beaches being conduits for metals, and we don't really have any direct evidence for that. There's as was suggested, that the marine cements don't really have any high zinc values or anything, so we can't really say that these are acting as conduits here for mineralization. Maybe you need a special situation like HYC or something where you've got a bigger fault or something associated with this widespread extension event. I don't know.
Yeah, because I think it's like tempting to link the two together, like the mineralization and the breccias, but the problem is that the breccias are so widespread, like they're documented at Rosie Creek and Nyako and all these other localities which are not mineralized. So, like, you have mineralization of breccias in one locality, but you have a lot of localities with breccias but no mineralization. So it's pretty hard to sort of then give a convincing argument that they might be. I know you're not trying to make that argument, but it does pop up. So yeah, it's interesting to think.
No, exactly. I think that's a really important point to highlight. And like, otherwise, why wouldn't we get mineralization everywhere we see these breccias, right? And you're right. The fact that like usually those those breccias are kind of the ones that are said to be these conduits for mineralizing fluids. They're depicted as these sedimentary faults with these breccias kind of coming off it. But we're kind of dispelling that idea for HYC, I guess, and saying that they're not. Those Cooley breccias aren't just coming off this single fault. And if they are the Teena breccias, then those Teena breccias are everywhere. So what does that say for this being where we get the mineralizing fluids coming out of? So I think that's important to point out.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you so much, Mana, and thank you for putting up with all the questions and running us through. We've really enjoyed hearing about it and really enjoyed your paper and the talk today. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's always awkward ending these things, I know, but no, thank you again for inviting me, and it's really cool to actually be able to talk about this work, because there has been so much done with it, and and thank you for all of the questions as well. It's really nice to kind of think further beyond just the paper itself and see what other people are thinking when they hear this stuff. So thanks again.